Okay, so everybody knows this knife. Everybody that knows about knives knows about this knife. And it's been very well proven, much reviewed, and touted for a very long time as a very good lightweight tactical folder. But I wasn't turned on by it, didn't want it. Why? Well, while it is an awesome and very large and lightweight and very well constructed tactical folder, there's one thing that had really turned me off about the knife. It isn't the pocket clip. I don't mind. For this particular knife, the way it's arranged, it actually allows for easier access and faster opening for me coming out of the pocket. And at this point, I think I should add that what Zippo, this knife, that said to me about this thing is really right. This is a huge blade. It is over 9 inches when it's open, but it carries just as well as my Delica. Melts into your pocket, has an incredibly flat profile. But onto what I think is my beef with this knife and why I got it in the end. Now, everybody knows Stryders. Well, not everybody, but most of you have heard of Cold Steel Recons. Those things are beefy. They're well built. They have very strong locks. And what bothered me about this is that although it's a tactical folder, it looks to have a kind of insignificant, very thin locking bar right there. I mean, granted, it is titanium, but and I think that'd hold up well under use, and that would wear across the blade tang quite quickly. Now, I watched reviews online because I knew that I liked the look of the blade, but it just didn't like the lock. I watched Archman's review, I watched Zippo This Knife That, I watched Nut and Fancies, and all what they say is right. I mean, this is a tactical blade. This can be used also for EDC. It has a very good blade shape. It's not just meant for stabbing people, but you can use it for all sorts of utility tasks. But onto what changed my mind about that skinny little liner lock. What you may not see, especially from looking at it in pictures and in most online reviews, is that locking bar, while it is quite thin, it is actually really, really wide. And that I learned from Nut and Fancy's video when he had turned the camera at an angle at one point. I saw how wide the thing was. Now, I can't really show you all that well with this right here, but what I can tell you in relation to the blade handle is that this lock bar roughly covers that much of the blade tang right there, almost right underneath the pivot. See that? It is really, really wide, and that affords an incredibly solid bank vault-like, lockup. See that rectangle right there on the left at the bottom of the blank tang? That's the entirety of the piece of metal that the width of the lock bar spans. So while it is thin, it is really wide. So that doesn't force negative pressures from using it onto a smaller and thinner little point. So it distributes pressure a lot more evenly, and it also wears better from what I've heard. Zippo This Knife That, and talking to him, said that his BG42 carbon fiber military, he's been the third owner, and that lock bar hasn't worn across more than 50%. And at this point, I'm really inclined to believe what he says. Now, another thing about this that I hadn't known at all, and that no other reviews had shown me, is why it's so lightweight. Now, online you'll read that it has steel liners, and obviously the locking side has to be lined also. Now, the thing about the liners is they do not run the entire handle at all. They stop right about here, around the third screw, and they kind of get cut out in an arc like that. Now, what that allows is putting what that allows for is putting the strength where it's really needed, around the pivot area, where the most torsion and rigidity is needed, while tapering down over here to allow enough metal to allow that sort of rigidity, and not putting extra weight where it's not needed. And that holds true for both the locking side and for the steel line non-locking side. So that's what makes it weigh the just a little over 5 ounces, I believe that it is. So that is my take on much known, much loved Spyderco Military, but with some things that you probably haven't heard before. So I will say good night right now, because it is close to 1 a.m. again. I'm gonna have to break this habit of doing these videos so late. See you next time.